of the Latino community in order for us to be able to meet those needs and make sure that candidates and politicians would be able to understand the needs of the Latino community and take action on some of those needs and opportunities that we have with the Latino community. So that was the goal. And you're going to hear a lot about what the Latino community is thinking right now heading into the 2024 election cycle. We are less than a week away from local elections, and Latinos are voting and can make a difference in local elections. But in 2024, Latinos will be a decisive force in Georgia as well, and not just in Georgia, will have national implications. So Latinos in Georgia are a vital electoral force of well over 400,000 already. And we are excited about the results of this survey and making sure that candidates, community groups, and folks that are doing the voter engagement work will really take to heart what Latinos really care about and make sure that they are hearing that as they head to the polls, not just in less than 7 days, but also leading up to the 2024 election cycle. So without further ado, I think there's going to be a lot of confirmation of where we thought our community was. Many people make assumptions about the Latino community, but now we've got actual data to back up some of what we thought and reaffirm some of the thinking that we have with the Latino community in Georgia. So without further ado, I will pass it over to Stephen Nuno Perez with BSP Research. Thanks so much for joining us, Stephen.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Can you see my screen?
Yes, I can.
Okay, great. Hello, everyone. Welcome, and thanks to Jared Gonzalez and Galeo for allowing BSP Research to work on this important project. This is a project that began earlier in the year, and Galeo reached out to us to tell us about their important mission here to reach out to Latinos in Georgia. And so we worked with them, and we had this was a survey that we did that fielded in September of this year. And the survey collected 500 surveys from respondents of Latino adults in Georgia. So this is all Latino adults, regardless of registration status and regardless of residency status. It was a mixed mode survey, so we contacted about 30% of our respondents by phone and 70% online through online methods. The survey was conducted in English or Spanish according to the respondents' preference. So we approach our respondents in Spanish, and if they want to speak English, our folks will speak in English to them. The results are weighted to reflect the population of Latino adults in Georgia, using common methodology and data from the U.S. Census, ACS, American Community Survey, and Current Population Survey data. So yes,
if we could spend a little bit more time on that, because I know we're going to get some questions on this. So. Okay. That means I just want to explain this a little bit further for folks that don't necessarily understand or do polling like you all do. But I mean, this means that it's reflective of the community. In other words, 2/3 are probably of Mexican descent. There's a strong representation of Puerto Ricans. It's broken down by gender. It's broken down by age. It's broken down by nationality as well. And is that correct?
Yes. So this sample is representative of Latinos in Georgia, and we will have some results broken up by that for available for the media.
Thank you.
So the first thing is we asked respondents to give us their top 3 most important issues in Georgia, and we've seen this throughout the country, and again in Georgia, where the rising cost of living and improving wages and also lowering costs in healthcare are the primary immediate concerns that Latinos have. Going down the list, just because we see things like lowering taxes at 11 or reducing crime at 9, doesn't mean that it's not important to Latinos. It just means that top of the list is bread and butter issues, trying to deal with their daily lives. And down here, you'll see women's reproductive and abortion rights at 17%. This is an issue that has been growing over the last year since Roe v. Wade, and it's a good reminder for our audience that Latinos, the median age for Latinos around the country is about 28 years old, and I think Georgia Latinos are a little bit younger than that, their median age, and so this is a very young population, and these kinds of issues like jobs and access to healthcare, protecting immigrant rights. These are issues that are affecting this community directly. So 2/3 of Latinos say they have no contact from organizations to register or the parties to register or to vote. This is one of the biggest indicators here that the system itself needs to invest in reaching out to this community, where we see Latinos have largely been institutions have been created to reach out to them, especially the Democratic Party, but the Republican Party in the South and Georgia and Florida needs to see that their outreach efforts are not reaching out to Latinos. And so here we see some evidence that Latinos are saying that they're just not being asked to register and to be involved in the system. And so this is an indicator of an opportunity to go out and reach out to new voters. There's a strong support among Latinos for key issues like voting rights and affordable housing. And again, with the lack of outreach efforts or the opportunity for outreach efforts, these are issues that folks who are interested in reaching out to Latino voters can use to get their interest and ultimately to get their votes. Here we see, excuse me, Latinos are supportive of a law to excuse me, that guarantees in-state college tuition for students, regardless of immigration status. I'm from Arizona. The state of Arizona just went through a decades-long discussion over this and finally passed a proposition ensuring this. Passing the new Voting Rights Act to ensure all Americans can vote. Also passing a law to make housing more affordable, and protecting renters' rights here. So looking down the list, strongly support. There's high support amongst Georgians for these kinds of policies. Latinos also want greater investment in the resources that it takes for them to start their businesses, to get to work, to function in Georgia. And so when we ask about their quality of life and thinking about their experiences and how they would describe these issues or these areas of their life in Georgia, when asking them about transportation and ability to get where they need to go, just 13% say it's excellent, and 54% say it's good or excellent. And so there's a lot of improvement here for policymakers to help improve these areas so that Georgia Latinos can get on with their business. Here, 48% say it's good for the availability of resources for their small businesses and resources for starting their businesses. So there's a lot of improvement here that can be done to help Latinos with their contribution to the Georgia economy. Latinos are personally concerned about environmental issues, and this is an emerging issue, at least in the media and the press, that because of Latinos youth and because of their integration with the economy. Latinos also have amongst the highest labor participation rates in the country, if not the highest. And so, following economic and healthcare concerns, Latinos are want to combat climate change and pollution as a top issue. 92% see the environmental issues like pollution and global warming as important to them personally. So this is an issue that can touch on Latinos as they are personally affected by climate change and pollution disproportionately than other groups around the country and in Georgia. Many have been personally affected by extreme weather, and we can see here roughly half have said that either they had to personally move, a family member has had to move, or a friend has had to move. So within the community, there's a high familiarity with friends and family who have had to move because of extreme weather like hurricanes. Obviously, there's the large Puerto Rican community in the southeast. A lot of these folks have had to deal with this for a long time, and those issues are growing, and the impact is growing, and also presents an opportunity to reach out to these folks with solutions. Another important issue here is there's a common stereotype about Latinos that they strongly support restrictions on abortion or are opposed to abortion. And we asked our respondents if they supported passing a law to guarantee access to abortion for people who need it. And here we have over 70% of Latinos in Georgia saying that they support a law guaranteeing access to abortion for people who need it. And if you look down at the age breakdowns, the younger folks are more concerned and supportive of access to abortion and than the younger folks. But overall, over 70% of Latinos support this policy. Asking Latinos to think about issues and how important it is to form coalitions. Obviously, Latinos are a minority group in Georgia, unlike in other places like where Texas and California and Nevada out west, where Latinos make up the largest minority group. Here in the South and in other places around the country, Latinos are an emerging community in terms of their political and voting power, and will need to be part of a coalition if they are to enact these policies and have their issues addressed. So we're asking Latinos about coalition building and how important it is for Latinos to form coalitions. And here we see more than half of Latinos are saying that this is very important. We also asked Latinos about their what they have in common with other communities, and 62% think that Latino and Black community have things in common, and Latinos also see commonality with Asian Americans, and 20% see a great deal, and 33% a fair amount in common with Asian Americans. So over half of Latinos think that they have something in common with the Asian American community, and they're 62% with the African American community. So these are also opportunities for Galeo and Latinos to reach out to these groups and find those common interests and have an education process for everyone in Georgia in order to build these coalitions and to have a larger cumulative effect on the system. Many Latinos have experienced economic hardship in the last year, and we asked them over the last 12 months if they've had to do any of these kind of coping mechanisms, economic coping mechanisms to try to deal with hardship. And here we can see that many Latinos are postponing medical or dental care. They've had to take a second job, or they've postponed paying certain bills. And you can see all the way down the line, Latinos are deeply impacted by by the barriers to economic integration and building businesses, and those are having real daily economic impacts on the community. Despite that, Latinos are very optimistic about the future in Georgia, and we asked them, thinking about the next few years in Georgia and your family's income, savings, and jobs, would you say that you're optimistic, things are getting better, or if they're pessimistic, or if they're uncertain? Latinos in general are a very optimistic community, and I think a lot of the youth and the newness to the within the migrant community, Latinos come here with a lot of optimism, and the communities that have been here for generations see this as also um, as reason to be optimistic about their futures. So despite the hardships and despite the the issues that we need to improve on as a country and as a state, Latinos remain a very optimistic community. And of course, this makes it easier for politicians and outreach organizations to grab onto this optimism and the opportunities to reach out to them and integrate them into the voting political process. While a majority of Latinos think they can get ahead in Georgia if they work out, also Latinos are very supportive of a strong role for government in supporting the things that they need, and so we asked them if they agree about if they say that the government should provide income support to those who try to provide for themselves or cannot adequately do so, and we asked them if Latinos can get ahead in the United States if they work hard. And so Latinos are very comfortable with a strong role for the government to assist them with their opportunities and with their goals. And Latinos also strongly believe that they can get ahead if they work hard. So this is a community that understands the role of government in their lives, but also a strong independent individual attitude towards working to get ahead and achieve their goals. Just a summary here of what we just talked about. The top concerns is jobs, cost of living, the economy, protecting immigrants, and healthcare. 2/3 report not being contacted, so outreach is a great opportunity. Latinos have a high labor participation rate, want greater investment in the infrastructure that will help them to go to work and achieve their goals. Latinos think it's important to take action on climate change and environmental issues. Contrary to common stereotypes, Latinos support access to abortion. Latinos think it's important to build coalitions in the minority communities. Latinos are strongly impacted by the economy and are having to postpone paying off bills to deal with that. But despite that, Latinos remain very optimistic and presents organizations and politicians with an opportunity to reach out to this community. That's all I have, and thank you very much. And I'll turn it over to Jerry. I'll stop.
Thanks, Stephen. And just a note for programming, we will be doing another press release and press conference next week as we dive deeper into the climate change issues, a little bit more about Latinos and their thinking around that, and particularly in what the administration has done associated with climate change efforts. So at this point in time, if there are questions for the media, for myself or for Stephen, we'd be more than happy to entertain those questions in either English or Spanish. Any questions that come up, Pablo?
If you have a question, you're not able to unmute, just set it in the chat. And raise your hand also, if that helps.
I think Adriana asked the question, anything that surprised us? I'll let Stephen respond from a national perspective and what he's done nationally, and then I guess we can also respond from my perspective as well. So Stephen?
Yes, I think from my perspective, what I think what does sort of kind of shock us a little bit, not shock us, but kind of emerging issues here that we see is obviously since Roe v. Wade was overturned, this has exploded in the minds of Latinos. Abortion access is historically not been anywhere near the consciousness of Latinos, and it's typically prior to 2022. I'm so old. Is immigration issue was historically been the one issue, and today, over the last 2 or 3 years since the last election, we have seen climate change, environmental issues, and access to abortion as an issue that continues to rise in the community. And so this is this emerging issue that we're seeing right in front of us live, that Latinos are becoming more concerned about. And this survey is, I think, one of our first in Georgia in public to see this also in live, and so we can see that the trend around the country is also alive and well in Georgia.
I think what surprised me was there are strong areas of policy agreement among the Latino community in Georgia. And I think when we see numbers in the high 70s to 80s, even 90% agreement on Latinos in Georgia, those are areas in which really policymakers and candidates really need to be paying attention to the needs and wants of the Latino community in Georgia. So that when we have that much agreement in the Latino community, I think that's something where policymakers can step in and address some of those issues. There's a methodology question also from Moises about the sample size and whether it was representative of the Georgia population. Stephen, you want to talk a little bit about?
Yes. So the sample size is 500, and it is the sample is proportional and representative of Latinos in Georgia. With a sample size of 500, we have a margin of error of about 4.5%. And so that margin of error, when we're discussing these numbers, that's the margin of error that we have, meaning the range of what we think what reality is, statistically speaking, is within that range of 4.5% of those numbers.
And they're also asking if the majority of the responses are from urban areas.
We did also have a what we call a quota sampling, stratified sample of respondents that we took into account with regards to largely metro Atlanta area and non-metro Atlanta area. And so I believe in the cross tabulations, we have a Metro LA and LA. I'm from Los Angeles. We have a Metro Atlanta cross tab and we call it other Georgia, which is going to be largely non-metro Atlanta folks as well.
And in order to be representative of that, I mean, the density of the Latino community is primarily in the Metro Atlanta area. So the sample that you have represents what the population demographic, it coincides with the population demographic of where people live as well in the state. So that's important to note. Any other questions? Yes, our plans on sharing the data and the analysis of this, we are going to be sharing the data. In fact, there is a an ad in the Georgia Trend magazine that's coming out today to make sure that policymakers around the state understand the results and can have access to the results automatically. But we are also going to be reaching out to elected officials and candidates to make sure that they understand the results of the survey. Us working in coalition with other groups in the Latinx Alliance, we will be working on developing a 2024 Latinx Alliance agenda to address policy initiatives that need to take into consideration the results of this survey as well. So we're going to be working closely with different groups to make sure that we move this not just as a point of information of what Latinos think, but actually as a point of action also as to what can be done legislatively, whether it's at the federal level, state level, or local levels of government, to make sure that Latinos' concerns and values and interests are being addressed at every level. So thanks for that question. Gigi.
Hi, good morning. Thank you. I just wanted to ask a confirmation question that this is reflective of the Latino population in Georgia, not just Latino voters or documented Latinos.
That is correct. We wanted to make sure that every single Latino is a vital part of our population in Georgia. Georgia can't function without Latinos, whether people are citizens or whether people are not citizens. We wanted to make sure that we had the opinions of the Latino community writ large, and this is representative of that. We wanted to make sure that based on the census data that we had numbers of citizens represented, but we also had non-citizens represented as part of the sample size because they're still contributing to the well-being and economic vitality of the state of Georgia. So both citizens and non-citizens are part of this viewpoint, because that is important for us to move policy decisions moving forward. Thank you, Gigi. Any other questions?
There's a question from Moises that says, what areas need more attention according to the responses?
I'll give my sense, and it is something that we can learn from as a community. I think there are still opportunities for us to continue to work with our communities on education, on policy matters. There are a number of policy matters that I think are areas in which we can spend additional time to make sure that we educate our community about what those policy proposals are and how they benefit or not benefit the Latinx community in Georgia. So there is opportunities for engagement. I think it also points to the fact that we need to do a better job as not just nonprofit organizations, but also political parties need to do a better job of reaching out to the Latino community and involving and engaging the Latino community in the electoral process as well. So there is that opportunity that exists for both organizations like ourselves that do the work because we want people to go out to vote, but also for political parties to do the work that they are neglecting in not reaching out to our Latino community. Stephen, do you have any reflections on that question?
Yeah, I'll just say that, I mean, as we look at this at the community, Latino community in Georgia, we think it's very important that we don't bring our stereotypes of Latinos that have affected our community out west and on the West Coast and up in New York, as the media focuses attention on the importance of Georgia nationally. You have about 3 or 4% of Latinos that can really change the how this country looks. And so it's important that we at BSP and Galeo and the media get it right when we describe our community to folks out there who are becoming familiar with us, and a lot of the common tropes and stereotypes that are passed along through the media, through the we think has a very detrimental impact on how the parties and how organizations and how other coalition organizations view the opportunities in the Latino community. And so Latinos do want a strong a strong government response and assistance with these policies. They're not. They want help in access to healthcare, including abortion, despite these stereotypes that we continue to hear from the non-Latino media. And Latinos are optimistic. These are not. This is a community that is here to improve themselves and their kids. And so these are, by definition, this is the most family values community in the country, right? And so it's really important that how we present ourselves to the media, to the non-Latino media, because this is a very newish thing for the media in the impact that Latinos can have nationally, but in Georgia, but nationally because of the way our system is set up. So we think this is vitally important to get it right out of the gate.
Yeah, one more question from Adriana. Adriana, yes, that what's next with the data is we're going to be sharing it widely to policymakers and candidates and elected officials and business leaders around the state as well, because I think it's important for people in positions of power don't make assumptions about what Latinos want and don't want. Really writ large, people in power need to understand that the growing vital and integral community in the state of Georgia, which is the Latino community, is necessary for folks to understand what Latinos' views and values are. And I think this poll gives us a snapshot in time for what Latinos want in Georgia leading into 2024. So Lautaro I think from the AJC has a question. Did getting folks to engage with the survey prove more difficult than expected? Stephen, do you want to address that from
yes,
your perspective?
From our perspective, yes. I mean, this is a very resource-heavy endeavor. In addition to this, the Galeo did a community outreach survey as well, and so Jerry saw firsthand how difficult it is to get people to participate in these surveys. So yes, it is very difficult. It requires a lot of resources and a lot of organization and coordination to get these done. But this is what we do. We're very familiar with that process, but it is getting more difficult. Just there's a lot. People are flooded with surveys right around this time, and so it is very difficult.
Yeah, and from a community perspective, we did launch an effort to do the effort within community as well, and it was a difficult process that we learned a lot from that process. But despite all of that, what we did see was that there was a tremendous amount of interest. I think it was over 11,000 folks clicked on the survey to start the process for the survey. Unfortunately, once you get into the survey, you realize it is not just a 1 or 2, 3 question survey. It was a pretty in-depth survey that demanded at least 15 minutes of time to complete the surveys completely. So given all that, we're still proud of the fact that we did it. We did have over 11,000 people interested in having their voices heard in a survey like this. And about, I believe, Stephen, correct me, how many actually completed from the community side of the survey?
I believe you had over 1,200.
1,200 people actually completed the entirety of the survey. That took about 15 minutes. So it is a first in-depth survey of the Latino community in Georgia. And so we can be proud of the collaborative effort that we did to make sure that, number one, people knew that we wanted to hear from their perspectives and their views on that. And number two, that they actually spent the time to make sure that their views and values were reflected in that survey as well. So that was a valuable part of the information that we did get associated with the community part of the survey. So we had a community part of the survey that was done by Galeo Outreach and our partners. And then there was the scientific part of the survey that was done, that was conducted by BSP Research, which shows the sample size of 500. So I hope that explains the question, Lautaro.
And the results being presented here are solely the BSP sample, just FYI, and I think that's in the release.
Yeah, I think I got it. So basically, it's like 1,200 completed the survey, and the 500 kind of picked were to make a representative of the Georgia Latino population.
Yes,
Is that-
but the results themselves that you're seeing are from solely the BSP sample, the 500. And we use the Galeo sample also to help us with our own sampling weighting procedures, and we are also very curious to see the quality of the demographic sample from them. Actually, we were really impressed. So they did a really good job.
Any other questions? Well, thank you all for joining us. I do want to let everybody know that NBC News nationally, NBC News Latino already has a publication on the results as well that you will be sharing on our social medias, and you can share as well. We're very excited about the findings. I think it does create a snapshot in time of Latinos' views on important policy matters as we're heading into the 2024 election cycle. And that's a challenge to candidates and policymakers to address those values and concerns that Latinos have in Georgia specifically. And then it's the work that's before us as a community as well, both with the Latinx Alliance in building a policy agenda for the Latino community in Georgia, but also us as organizations to make sure that we're doing the outreach and education work that's necessary for us to build a more prosperous Georgia by making sure that we can have our work in a multiracial coalition to build a better Georgia for us all. So we want to thank you all, and barring any other questions, all the information will be posted on our website, so feel free to share that, and we will be posting news on our website and social media as well. Thank you so much. Have a great day.